It's May 20th, 2020 at 4:30. And we're here today to talk about temporary street closures. In attendance, we have myself, Katie Capolini, Doug Hanum, Brian McCann, Lindsay Stowe, and Patrick Richardson. We do expect that Mark Fry, and here comes Mark Fry right now. So Mark Fry is with us as well. Also, we have from administration, Leslie Brining, Mayor Stowe, Chuck Silvernail, Bill Sanford, Kevin Aller, I see from administration. It's with us, and make sure I get you all. Rachel Navarre, Katie Fields, Melanie Fort, Brian Keyser, Danny Fuller, and Colleen Barnhart. So I think that represents everybody who is on this call. I thank you for joining us, and I think this is a really exciting topic. So I'm looking forward to having this conversation and get a sense of where we land. I do think it would be appropriate to turn it over to Bill Sanford, as he did. Hopefully all council members had the opportunity to take a look at the handouts that were sent in advance. And I know that that Ray did some legwork as well to help get some thoughts from downtown businesses. But could we start with Bill maybe doing a high-level overview? Is he there? Oh, yeah, I see him.
Chuck, I'm okay here to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody hear me okay? Good. No. Thanks, Mary. Again, you introduced it pretty well. And then from the council meeting, we were tasked administration, so I put some thoughts down and got those out to you. The other thing I did is with Ray and I talked before the meeting, so she kind of anticipated. I think she did a great job in getting the word out to the DSA membership to get a feel for what they were thinking, and it was a pretty good turnaround and some great information, I think, about the street closures and everything. So I guess maybe just to see if there's any questions on what I have proposed and sent out to people on council.
I have a quick question. If you could just kind of do a high-level overview on what option 1, 2, and 3 were. I couldn't quite figure it out exactly. I mean, I think I've got it, but maybe just tell us what those 3 are so we can be clear.
Sure. A couple of quick things, Mary, that, you know, it's looking at for what we do this weekend and what we do the rest of this. And
okay.
This is a very short time to try to get everything done by Friday, but I did get a sense from the meeting, last council meeting, I think we can get something done. And probably the easiest thing, or the quickest thing that we could put together would be that section of Maplewood, which would be the west side of Main Street, Main to Richard Becker Place. And that's something the city believes we can get done. We can put up the barriers, and we can move some picnic tables from one of the shelters, one of the parks, and have about 4 picnic tables down there to create more of a seating area. Now, from the rest of the weekend, I think that's what we've got to kind of talk about as to what makes sense for the weekend. But I think that's the main thing we wanted to get across for this coming weekend.
So I think I'm hearing that we're looking for two different decisions. One is, what are we going to do this weekend with short notice and just make something more friendly? Is that correct?
Mary, could you repeat that?
So I think what I heard you say is you are hoping that we'll just make a decision for this week only. Broader discussion about what it looks like for the rest.
Yeah, that's for this weekend, and then look at even the other side of Maplewood. There was interest in that on the what we call the east side, but we had a reaction from Reed Funeral Home, and that I think we need to pay attention to. And then that would be temporary. Now back to the west side, we would put that up and we would leave it there. It's at least a week, a month, whatever we can. That can always be there. And in the street, it's a public space, and that'd be similar to what we saw in some of the other communities like Port Clinton.
Okay. Well, I definitely would like to hear from other members of council what they're thinking at this point in time. But before we do that, I also want to make sure that we let our guests know that we will open up to questions from you and comments from you as well. But I'd like to just get a little feedback from council members initially on what you're thinking based on what you've just heard.
Hey, Mary, it's Mark. I have no issue with the of Maplewood as Bill's just described. My thought process is as recommended by administration is to give it a shot over the weekend. If it goes well, which I expected it would, then we would keep it up for a month and get a sense of what we're actually what the popularity of the closure is, feedback from the community, people pushing back, and then give ourselves an opportunity to consider keeping that up for beyond the month, an extended period of time. The only thing that I would say is if we look to keep it up, say, through Labor Day, ultimately longer term, I think we need to also be cognizant of how that would potentially interact with traffic if in fact the kids go back to school for Maplewood Elementary and that sort of thing. I don't know what the logistics are of bus traffic and all that sort of thing. Typically, I think when the farmers market was set up in that area, I think the schools by and large had let out at that point. But I'm not. The only thing I would be a little concerned of because there would be an overlap there of a few weeks.
Good comment there, Mark. I that makes some sense. Other members of council, thoughts or feedback?
Hey, Mary?
Yeah.
I want to commend the quick thoughts on ways that this could be feasible, and same with Ray for being able to reach out and get feedback from the downtown owners so quickly. I really think that doing this sort of trial on Maplewood is a great way to get a feel for feedback on whether or not this is an option that would be popular with residents. And I just wanted to add in that we might be able to advertise a sort of bring your own chair option at east side where we can't put anything permanent down. I know something that I and a lot of my friends have been doing is we'll bring our own chairs to some place so that we have less of a potential of touching things that other people have touched, and then we can space it out to where we need to. And that gives a lot of opportunity where it's low maintenance for us and easy for temporary installations.
Good thoughts. Other members of council?
So I guess Bill said the tables are going to come from the park shelters. I'm assuming that's the Haroon Park shelter. I feel like we need more than 4. I mean, can we maximize how many tables if we measure 6 feet and put one table like every 6 feet in a square? Because 4 tables is only like 4 families. And I feel like...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
4 tables is really only 4 families, and the street space is pretty large. We need to fill it up with tables 6 feet apart to make it actually look like something's going on or could go on.
Bill, did Katie hear that right? I did not hear that. You're thinking only 4 tables is what would be there, or is that all that's available?
No, I just use that as an example. I think that's not a bad point Katie made, but I don't think, I took another look at the space. 6 makes more sense, or you could fit in, but I'd be concerned about the spacing or whatever. Maybe start and see how that goes, and we can always add to it too down the road, but I think it's just that maybe start small and work our way up. And maybe 6 is the right number.
And then something else that I had mentioned Monday night that I'm not sure was a really popular idea among our group was the historical village. And I kind of am circling back to it because I was reading the comment from Sodbuster. And I also know Element was interested. And there, you don't need furniture. You could just bring a blanket and have a family picnic and have your pizza or whatever lunch you want delivered to your picnic blanket in the historical village. It just seems like it's such a nice space that we should really offer it up for people to be able to take advantage of, especially after reading this comment from Sodbuster.
I do think it's a beautiful space. I think it's something we'd want to talk to the Historical Village people about. But Lindsay, serving on that board, you might have some perspective on that.
I would be happy to take that back to the board and get their thoughts on it. I know that Element has already reached out to Heritage Sylvania asking whether or not they would be open to having seating in that area. So I know that is already starting to go through their minds. And they might even have some ideas of hosting their own specific sort of like picnic in the village nights potentially, where they can have maybe more security or more control. Because I believe that damage could be something that they're nervous about, inviting too many people there at once. But we should also keep in mind that Element and Sodbusters both have large parking lots right in front of them that could have a lot of potential seating in front of them as well. So there's a lot of options in that area that could expand, but I would be happy to take this to Heritage Sylvania and talk to some more about it.
Okay.
Mary, I had a question in regards to the Heritage Sylvania site. It was my understanding in our DSA conversations in the past that site, even though the city owns it, that we could not allow the DORA to be active in that footprint. Is that still the case with everything going on and the modifications from the governor, or do we now have additional flexibility in that regard?
I think it's a great point. I do think there were some limitations on that, and I don't know if Bill knows the answer to that, or if perhaps the mayor or Leslie would know.
I think that it's not in our DORA at this point in time. Could it be used for people to go back and eat, but they could not take it? It's not included in the DORA space.
Are the parking lots at Element and Sodbuster considered part of the DORA?
When we initially wrote it, and this was state law, it was only public right-of-ways. That's how the wording says. So that's not a parking lot. It's not the historical village. If something's changed, like you said, if there's been a loosening of the rules given current situations, I don't know about it. But that was the initial rules from the state, public right-of-ways only.
So I looked at it yesterday and I could not for the life of me find anything that said public right-of-way. Either it's changed or maybe I should go to law school, but I didn't see anything that said public right-of-way.
As for parking lots that are owned by the restaurants or by the people that lease the space, the governor has already said that the restaurants and bars can expand their service space out into those privately owned parking lots. So that would not be part of the DORA by definition, but it could be used for service for those particular restaurants to go out into. The restaurants cannot come out into the public right of way and claim that as their service area. Then it has to be the DORA. So there's two different definitions there. And then you have the corner park, the mini park. There are a lot of people in there with DORA cups Friday and Saturday night running by. That could be a real problem, especially with this 70-member unit that's going out around the state that the governor's putting out to review these things. So we need to be careful of the DORA spaces, that they don't use them anymore.
And we would have to make sure that our partners at Element and Sodbuster understood the difference as well in terms of accessing their parking lot space versus the DORA concept, I think. Okay.
Hey, Bill, do you think that the city would be open to maybe providing some of those picnic tables to those parking lots as an option to help give more outdoor accessible space for those northern businesses?
I guess that's possible, but there's a couple of things. We only have so many, and it would be in the public space of the street, and that's consistent with what I've seen in other cities. And I think what the mayor brought up is correct in that if you're working at Element and Sodbuster, they can expand their patios. That's what the state has done, is waived all these things in our local health department, so you can expand and have service outside your front door and treat it like a patio. So I don't think that's the really need. I'm not hearing that from them to have tables there. Sure, you can have them all over the place, but I like the consistency of having it on the city street and just limiting that one area, because we're going to keep that closed for quite a while. And we wouldn't have to be moving it around so on.
Thank you. I'd like to just for the record mention that Sharon Bucher, Clerk of Council, is with us. I don't think I mentioned her earlier. Glad to see you, Sharon. Thanks for joining us. I am going to open it up to the other participants' dialogue, but before I do, I'd like to just see if Doug or Patrick has anything they feel like they'd like to add.
I think we should. I think we should do it. I'm all for it. I think we should shut down Maplewood as a start, and let's see how it goes. I would support that motion.
Okay.
As would I. I think.
Okay.
I think the comments have been very helpful.
They have been, and certainly we will put a formal motion on the table, Patrick, so hold on to that. But I would like to provide an opportunity for our guests to have input. I wanted to let council members talk a little bit first because we were not all familiar with the discussions that had happened in advance today. So I just want to make sure we all understood all of the various pieces. But with that, if there's any of the guests here that would like to speak, I would invite you to introduce yourself and share your address like we would in a traditional meeting, and then speak to whatever you see as the most critical issue. Oh, and I forgot to ask Brian for input, but I'll grab him at the end. So guests, anything you would like to, anybody who wants to speak?
Hi, this is Katie Fields from Inside the Five Brewing Company. I wanted to first comment on the DORA regulations. When serving on the DORA committee, it was our understanding that it was only public right-of-way that could be possible for the DORA restricted areas. Since that time, I have spoke with the Ohio Liquor Department, who led me to believe that it's any city property. So it is up to the city. It does not just have to be public right away. So Sylvania Heritage could be, that property could be a part of DORA. I do not believe Corner Park is still possible, although last weekend it was used for DORA quite a bit. We are all of us at Inside the Five are for closing Maplewood down and expanding the area. Last weekend, it was very difficult for us to maintain social distancing in our restaurant, and we weren't even open for dining. It was only for DORA customers. So we would open our garage door and have a line serving DORA customers outside, and so it would be able to social distance in the line much easier. So we are for that. Our only concern is we do have deliveries come in on Maplewood, and we have to speak with all of those big trucks on how they would, what is best for them, and if they would still be able to deliver, whether it's, they can't go to our back parking lot. They always come down Maplewood, right where that area is. So we would have to speak with our delivery trucks, and it may be a further discussion after in terms of timing when our deliveries are, but we are definitely for it, and we'll work around any of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Good feedback.
Can we look into the DORA expansion? That's news to me. I didn't know that. I think we should definitely look into that. And if we need to pass something at council to expand it, we should.
Well, and I think we can ask if.
Well, for what it's worth, I just looked at the they amended this legislation in March of last year and expanded the DORA eligible area. We would have to adopt, we'd have to do the same, we'd have to go through the same legislative process to expand the DORA that we did when we originally created it. But yeah, the public right-of-way thing is gone now. So, and it just says we can file an application to have property within the municipal corporation that we own. So it looks like we can do that. I'm sure Leslie would want to take a more comprehensive look at it than my look on the fly, but it does look like the ordinance has changed since I last looked at it anyway.
So good points. And perhaps we can just ask that administration pursue that a bit and come back to us and bring us up to speed on what our options are and what's involved in expanding that to accommodate the change. Does that make sense, Mr. Mayor?
Yes. We'll take a look at that. Yes.
Okay. Anyone else from the community that would like to speak about this process and about this temporary street closures? Okay. Brian McCann.
I'll say something.
Danny.
Danny Fuller Art House in downtown Sylvania. I guess my question is more related to if we are opening this up, are we going to be installing the parklets as well? Is that part of this process? Since we are moving forward with opening up the street, then we will be installing the parklets, and when we can expect that to happen.
Yes, I believe this is in addition to the parklets, and I think we can let administration speak to when they believe the parklets will be installed or ready for installation.
I think Kevin has that. Chuck,
I couldn't find him. Oh, there he is. Kevin.
This is Kevin Haller. We're working on that. Ray, who's also in the meeting, Ray Navarre and I have been trading emails back and forth and trying to get some dates set up. But it's moving forward. We're just trying to get it coordinated.
Kevin, will the parklets be in for the holiday weekend?
No, they will not be in for this weekend.
Okay.
And the only other thing I wanted to, more of an offering than a question. We've been using high top tables during our local fest over in the parking lot. And I don't know if that is something that we could bring over to Maplewood. The wood, Katie, you might be able to help answer that question. They're just high tops that we've been using for local fest. If they are something that we can use, they're in my garage and I would love to get them out. But if that's something that I could help provide, I don't know what the rules are in terms of what the city can use, but I wouldn't mind offering them as a...
How many do you have, Danny?
We have 5, and they're these tall high tops. It's almost like standing at a bar. Pretty basic high tops. Pretty heavy duty though. So
I don't think there would be a problem with that. I don't know if administration views that there would be a concern with high tops supporting the picnic tables.
I'll comment on that. Lindsay asked earlier whether the city could bring picnic tables into some of the parking lots. Maybe those high top tables can go into the private parking lots for the restaurants to use. And we keep the picnic tables that the city owns in the city right away. And remember, the more stuff you put in Maplewood, the more that Katie might have to have moved out of the way to have her deliveries made. You're going to have to keep a traffic lane open to make deliveries. So, Lindsay, what do you think of that? Bill did not answer your question about moving in city picnic tables. High top tables might be the answer.
And then isn't part of the restriction with DORA that the governor just said was that you need to be sitting while you're drinking? And I don't think you can sit at
the restaurants. That's in the restaurants patio areas. If you are at a restaurant for food or liquor service, and if that includes their outside service areas, you have to have 6-foot distance, and you have to be parties of no more than 10. And you have to be seated. If you're not seated, that's what his enforcement. If you're not seated, you're too close to somebody else. There's 2 different enforcement groups could come around that people could call in. One would be the one to enforce what's going on in the restaurant service areas, and the liquor control people could be called in for what's happening in the DORA areas. And all it takes is a call from anybody there that doesn't like what's going on, and we could have somebody come in and shut everything down. I'm quite concerned about that.
So something else that didn't come up, who's going to be responsible for cleaning them? I mean, don't they have to be, like when a group gets up, they kind of have to be wiped down, right? Or no? How are we going to do that?
Yeah, they should. And any tables that are outside of our area, we'd be more than happy to go and wipe down. We would have if the area outside on Maplewood is closed down, we will open our garage door for service, and which will require extra staff, and we would be happy to clean those as frequently as we can. We're not going to serve them as they were part of our restaurant. It would be more of carry out, like anyone can go there and sit down, but we'll be happy to clean them off.
And then what about, do we think we should put hand washing stations out there or hand sanitizing something? I mean, I've seen those portable hand washing stations at like festivals and fairs. I have no idea where you get them or how much they are, but it kind of sounds like a good idea.
I think it's a great idea. I think the real question is who's going to pay for it and who's going to make that happen. So, you know, again, I don't have that answer. I'm curious if any of the current restaurants have hand sanitation. Have they put their own hand sanitation units in?
Yes, we inside the Five has put 3 hand sanitizer stations within our, actually I think 5 within our restaurant for customers. The hand washing stations I think are difficult to find right now, but the foaming hand sanitizer is pretty easy for us to find right now. So that could change as places start to open back up. But right now we were able to find that just fine.
And Katie, do you know if any other restaurants in downtown Sylvania are using the hand sanitizers?
No, I don't know. I'm not aware of that.
Do you have any of your hand sanitizers outside?
We have one in our vestibule, right when you walk in the door. We do have, I think we have some extra pumps that we could stick one outside of our restaurant. If possible, I think we do have an extra one. So, but the refills and stuff are easy to come by as of right now.
So again, I think that's something that we would need a little bit more vetting on. I'm not sure that, what I think I heard you say, Katie, is you're happy to try and support that concept, at least initially through this holiday weekend. And It might be a discussion that needs further vetting at a DSA meeting.
For what it's worth, I have hand sanitizer in my office and in my car that I supply to myself. And Katie, if I show up in the door this weekend, it'll be with my own hand sanitizer.
Okay. Thanks, Doug.
I do think it's a requirement of the governor, though, for the restaurants to have hand sanitizer coming into the restaurant. If not, at the door of the DSA or whoever operates the door might want to think about that. But I agree with Doug. Most people are going to be carrying their own.
Ray, I feel like you've tried a couple times to get a word in edgewise. Anything you'd like to add to the conversation? If you'd introduce yourself and who you are so that we just have it officially on record.
Yes, Ray Navarre, DSA. I am wondering, I have a question and then a comment. Bill, do you know if the picnic tables or anyone, are they plastic or wood?
We're still kind of figuring that out. I think the ones I've looked at, but we have to talk staff-wise as to where they're going to come from. And I think there's some that are like that kind of material, but not the wood kind of material.
Okay. And then I guess I would just say, after observing last weekend, and it wasn't even the warmest, or and restaurants weren't open inside, it was pretty crazy out there. So I feel like we should if we're closing off Maplewood, we should try to fill it with as many tables as we can with the social distancing in place. 1, to pull people out of the corner park because they don't realize they can't go into it, but it's the only place they can go. And then 2, we don't have the parklets yet. And because the city just approved them being installed now, we're a little delayed with the builder. So once those are installed, I feel like that'll be nice and pull people down Main Street and give them like newer or different pockets to spread out. But I guess I would advocate to have as many safe tables we can if possible. And I think Danny's would work well there too. I don't know if they would work well on sidewalks outside of restaurants. They're pretty heavy and bulky.
I like the idea of the combination of the high table and the picnic tables in that area for this weekend, and we can observe and see how it goes.
I think that makes sense. I do feel that this council has a sense of urgency to accommodate the holiday weekend and provide the best possible opportunity for our restaurant partners to have immense success during these challenging times. So I think our goal today is to make sure we at least put the basics in place so that we can move forward this weekend and probably for the next couple of weeks, and then we can observe and have some further dialogue. Brian McCann, I did not give you an opportunity to speak. I apologize for that. Is there anything specific you would like to ask or add to the conversation?
Wanted to say thank you for the input that we've received so far, and I'm in agreement with trying out what we will this weekend, and let's see how it goes to what we can consider going forward.
Perfect. Anybody else that would like to make any comments at this time?
Katie Fields again. I just want to make one more comment. I think the more areas to put people, the better. So focus on how many areas can we create for people to go. We learned kind of this weekend after opening our patio and had some nice weather and Dora was back. Our customers don't care about social distancing, care what rules we put in place. And as we retrained our staff this week, I just told them to do their best. And we can police and have our guidelines within our property and in our restaurant, but people are still going to do what they want to do. So having the more areas and more space for people to spread out, I think is the best thing we can do.
Quick question for Katie. Katie, have you thought of doing anything with your parking lot out the back door? Expanding like a patio?
Well, we cannot, I don't know. Dora back there, it would be a possibility, but we can have tables back there, but not, our liquor license does not expand back in that area. So, we have thought about it, and it's a possibility, but we haven't decided anything yet.
I think with the current rules, though, we're saying you could do that with the patio extension.
That's what we're trying to figure out, because the governor and the health department saying you can serve back there, like serve food and service back. Liquor department is not on that same page. So we're trying to figure out those details right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Move to any formal motions. I would like to have an opportunity for administrators share their thoughts if they have any concerns that we can be sure we hear them. Mr. Aller, if you have anything to say, or certainly if the mayor has any comments, I'd love the opportunity to hear the thoughts.
I'll speak. We will have the streets department get the barricades necessary to close off that section of Maplewood before they go home for noon. And we'll assume that those barricades are going to stay in place past the weekend for the next, or whatever you choose to do. We'll try to make them, Katie, so that they can either be moved aside easily, traffic lane for you to get your deliveries through there. And we'll instruct the parks department or the streets department to move tables in there. If we can find plastic top tables, if we have those, we'll do that. We don't think we have enough to fill up the space, but we got to keep a lane open. I'm not as clear as Bill is on the number of tables that can fit in there. We may be able to get more than 6 in there. Might fit. Maybe we can get more in there. We'll try to measure that, because I agree with what Katie Fields said. We need to give people the chance to spread out if they choose to do that. So the city commits to get that underway for the weekend, and then it's going to stay up until we're told otherwise.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And Mary, just to add to that, and that going forward, and I do think with everybody involved, this was a pretty good response in a couple of days, and just try to get something by the weekend. But we need to continue, and I'm glad to do that. And is it Mark Fry from City Council and other members of the DSA to kind of address some of these other things that came up about expanding the DORA, the Heritage Village question, the the washing stations, other areas. So there's a lot of other things we can continue to talk about that we should just continue to do that and have that dialogue so that we can continue to review and update. I think Mary's frozen.
Mary?
I think she's frozen.
We'll successfully address those issues, but they're all very valid. With that, unless somebody does a quick hang on, I've got something to say, I'm going to move to asking. Oh, yeah, we've got Colleen in the back. What are you trying to say back there? Sorry.
Colleen Barnhart with Beautiful Blooms by Jen. I don't know, does the city own the parking lot that's across from the old Beautiful Blooms by Jen building on Summit Street?
No, Colleen, that's actually owned by the credit union. The small lot.
Both of them are?
No, then there's the small lot where there's some dumpsters at the back of it. That's what the city owns next to Drescher's law firm.
Okay. I just didn't know if that could be an option for tables and things. I don't further down. I don't know if Dora goes. Got it. That could be just an idea.
It's a great idea, Colleen. And I think, again, we can have people, maybe Bill can take some of those things into consideration as he's evaluating some of these other things.
Mary,
yes.
Before we take the next step, which I'm fully supportive of, or at least I think where we're headed, Bill, could you make sure, to the extent you haven't already done that you reach out to Sodbuster, Element, and the other restaurants in the city to make sure they understand the flexibility they now have to expand patio dining, as the better weather kicks in and the governor has relaxed the traditional standards.
Yes, I will do that. I'll do it by this weekend.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, so again, many thanks to administration for your hard work on this. I believe that Mr. Richardson is ready to make a motion. No? Yes?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. I'm sure. I'll make a motion that the city closes down Maplewood between Main and Richard Becker starting Friday midday for the foreseeable future until this council deems otherwise.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close Maplewood between Main and Becker Place until this council deems otherwise. I just would like to ask if the council members are comfortable not putting a timeline on that at this point.
I'm comfortable with it.
Okay, then I would ask all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. So we will look forward to administration support in getting that street closed down. And I think that we will continue to review this and observe how it goes. I think there's lots of other pieces that have to be resolved. Bill, you did a nice job of identifying some of those in terms of expanding the door out. Are there other locations? What do we do with historical village? What do we do with hand sanitizer? So I don't think the discussion is done. And I also think that we are not ready to make a commitment. I want to be very clear to our community partners here that I don't think we're making a commitment to permanently doing this forever. We're making a commitment to observe it and determine what is the best next step. And we always look forward to your input and conversation. Is there anything else of significance to come before this committee of the whole? Hearing none, I would ask if there's a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the committee of the whole meeting at 5:11. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries and this meeting stands adjourned. I do have one quick question. Ray, were you trying to get my attention over there?
No, but there is just one last thing. I already emailed Kevin about signage, street signs for social distancing and just reinforcing some of those rules that they put up at the river trail. I do think they're important, even though people might not follow them. And I think something larger at the corner park about no Dora something maybe more visible, larger, higher up, anything just to be covering our bases in case something or someone does come out and check on our door.
Good comment, and we'll add that to Bill's list, and he can work with Mr. Aller on that and decide how best to manage that. So you guys are fabulous. Thank you for being here today, and sounds like an exciting weekend ahead. Bring your hand sanitizer, your masks, but I keep saying, how can you drink if you have a mask on? There's a little problem there, but hopefully